Las Vegas found themselves in the middle of a UFO mystery last month after
To us, big eyes. They have big eyes.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal?
One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the tattoo, so that's why I'm kind of curious.
What? I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Okay, hang on.
He's right.
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, he's good. He's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
Mythical Legends Podcast with your host Daniel Barnett.
And welcome back to the Mythical Legends Podcast and Sasquatch Odyssey Podcast and all the people watching on Facebook. I'm so glad to be back, and especially with my very, very good brother, Mr. Ryan RPG Golembeske. How are you, buddy?
I am wonderful. How long have we been waiting to blabber passionately about what's happening? Oh my God, this is so. To everyone who is tuned in, prepare yourselves, put your seatbelt on, and grip the wheel tightly because this is going to be a ride. Let's go.
So, mate, first of all, the question I always ask on a podcast is, "How have you been?"
Oh man, I've been wonderful. Being a Papa Bear is the greatest thing that ever happened to me, but the second greatest thing that ever happened to me, we're going to get to talk about today. So I'm pretty stoked about that, right? These are the kind of things like you've all had those moments in your life where you're standing someplace and it's either so beautiful or wonderful or powerful that you wish you could bring everybody there with you that you love for that moment. And that's the moment we're going to talk about. So yeah, it's going to be a good show.
So today, just a pre-warning to everyone watching, what you are about to see is some real emotions that may come out today. Because this is such a magical story of what happened. Now, we do have some special guests, 3 of them actually, that will be joining us today, which me and Ryan will bring on very, very soon. But I'm going to go right back to the start of the story, right, where me and you first met, and
greatest day of your life. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I think it was on a podcast, February 2024. I was with Nan, and you came on not really knowing what you're about to get into.
No idea, and I tried ignoring you and blocking you for like a year, but you were so persistent, and you just had to get through that. Yeah, we finally had a chance to connect, and I would be lying if I didn't say it was one of the best moments in my Bigfooting career. So thank you for not giving up on me.
Agree with that. Yeah. So, mate, it was a fantastic moment, and we didn't know at that point. I knew from the very beginning of that podcast where I was going with it. I knew after that podcast I would go straight into, do you want to become part of this journey? And say, you could have done it whilst I was 12, but fine. You just obviously didn't want to.
Mistakes were made. You know, they happen. Big important part of life. Be able to accept mistakes, say I'm sorry, and move on, because you shouldn't waste too much time on it. Just keep moving. Which is one of the things I actually love about you, is you are kind of unstoppable in that way. It's amazing. Most of us get caught on these like roadblocks, but you're just like, no, I'll just call him 500 more times. He will pick up. He will. These are facts.
And so after that, we then went into kind of, I said, do you want to become part of this amazing journey? Now, it was actually funny that another one of our guests I met 2 days before we actually met. So I'll actually brag that I knew the staff from Expedition Bigfoot before I knew you.
Yeah. Okay.
So
well, I'm not going to get emotional over that. Yeah.
So we I kind of met you both at the actual same time. So I then asked you about the conference later that year, and then we decided to actually start filming, and Monica and M&M Productions have been fantastic. So I will put a massive shout out to them to say what an amazing job they've done over the past year, and they've done something very, very incredible, and they have brought us all together. Would you agree, Ryan?
Well, absolutely, and I think we've got to tip our squatch hat to young Mrs. Nan, who provided that, right? Like, I love that the origin story of connecting us with, or you, with Monica's production company was Nan and her being in choir together and singing together. It's like, these are the things we need to bring back in schools. We need choir again in class and art classes, and look where it's led us, through this beautiful thing of singing and combining your frequencies to create wonderful harmonies has now created this wonderful harmony that we have here.
And it's been wonderful. I think Nan actually regrets giving me that business card, but hey ho. So before we go any further, guys, you probably know what this podcast is about. I'm about to confirm it with you with the official documentary poster. This is our official documentary poster, and we can't wait to actually get this out and get some amazing things out to the world. But what I am about to do now is we are going to start the story. So, as a lot of you are aware, here in the UK, these wonderful stars came over to the UK. Ronnie LeBlanc from Expedition Bigfoot and Paranormal Caught on Camera, Rene Holland from Finding Bigfoot, and am I forgetting anyone, Ryan?
How could you forget the RPG? Come on, man. Don't make me get in a plane right now, fly over there, hug you, get back on the plane, come back and sit back down. Okay?
And so they came over to the UK and it was fantastic. Now, I made a very good friend. I think it was September 2023 that he came to my event and he never knew what was going to happen. And I met him on a Facebook group, and we kicked off, and I gotta say, it has been an amazing journey with him. So let's bring him on and let's have a little bit of fun. Just before I bring him on, I'm going to say thank you to all being in the chat because we have some amazing people here. So please welcome to the stage, Mr. Chris Alsford.
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
Wake up.
Oh, we're on? Finally.
Princess Leia, hurry up.
Yeah, sorry, man. Yeah.
How are you, Chris?
I'm good, man. Thank you. How are you?
Good, mate. I am very, very well, very, very well. And as me and Ryan said at the beginning of this podcast, it has been a long, long time since we've actually, in fact, no, not long time. This is the first time we've actually got together to speak about it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the first time we actually can even speak about it, except in hushed whispers and quiet back rooms.
Did it happen? Did it not happen? Yeah.
Shh.
So we have two amazing people that I'm gonna hold backstage for a minute. But first, before we get to the UK, Chris, me and you met at my first children's conference, didn't we?
Yes, because I'm clearly a child. So I attended that one. Yeah.
Do you want to explain a little bit about how me and you met?
First of all, it's on the Facebook group. You were looking for researchers, genuine researchers. Gus told you to speak to me.
Yeah.
Can I private message you? Yes. I found something in Somerset. Would you like to come to the forest and look with me? By the way, I'm a 14-year-old autistic boy. No effing way. Thank you. Bye. Yeah. But you're I think your father got in touch and said he's always going to have a member of his family with him. Always.
Yeah.
And I'm a policeman, so get down here. I said, okay, I'm coming.
And say I still have the first interview that me and you did. Do you remember that? Me and you sat down and did that first interview, and you told me about your shark story. The
shark story, yeah.
That's my favorite, by the way. I tell it to everybody.
Yeah, but I've got a better story now, right? I mean,
yes, you do.
Opinion.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
You actually finally do.
Let's fast forward to last April. Now, I remember it very, very clearly. I picked you up in the airport with Dad for the very, very first time, Ryan. You didn't know that I was actually coming. It was all amazing, and I'm now. Yep. I just don't like you now. So we had a wonderful time in the UK. So I will kind of leave it to you, Ryan, to start off how the UK filming went, and then we'll pass it to Chris.
Yeah, well, it's for those people that really know me, I'm a goofball. I was class clown. I truly believe laughter is the best medicine, and that the more of it we do, the healthier we are. So I was obviously working overtime, completely delirious from a long plane flight, to get on your guys' good side and to tickle your funny bone a wee
I
bit.
gotta say, Dad has just messaged me the word French horn.
You know, now something in comedy that's great is when you do a callback. So you make a joke, you see it works, and you just wait a little bit, you bring it back to the conversation, and you just keep going to that well as many times as you can. And we did that with the French horn, or me just
Yeah,
telling
that's
everyone
funny.
that I love them, you know, afterwards, or you know, what I mean, I love you, and then leave, and people are
Mm.
like, what? But in every other language, there's all these different versions of love. In ours, it has to be very specific, this or that. But anyway, that's a nice deep rabbit hole we can dive down some other time. In terms of coming out to film, here's what's spectacular about it, right? Like, I'm a Papa Bear now, and anything that has to do with kiddos, and especially kids, like going for stuff that we usually associate with adults, phenomenal. I want that more than anything else now. And that was one of the things that I liked about you. I mean, I know you enjoyed me because I was on TV, and I seem to be, you know, a gentle soul or a good soul. But for me, for you, it was just how hard you're working. You know, people get paid a lot of money to do what you do naturally without even having to try. You're just going to overachieve. And I really like that, man. And an ability to bring people together, that's even harder these days, right? Because everybody can sit in their house in the comfort. You can sit on your toilet. You never have to leave, right? But you actually got people to come out and to be a part of it. You know, you have this gravity about you that I thought was amazing. And the fact that I got to participate in that and be a mentor of sorts on your journey is it couldn't be more me right now, you know? So to come over and to see the team you put together and to understand that this was really going down, and in a very short amount of time, you essentially go from not communicating as well as you could to being radically, or even I'd say hyper focused on your mission, which is to find Bigfoot, to educate, to get back in the woods. And I don't know what to tell you, but for people listening, and you agree or not, the confidence is the most beautiful thing, right? And to find confidence at such a young age is profound, in my opinion. And kudos to your family, kudos to Nan and Gramps and your parents, and even your sister for putting up with you.
No.
No. It takes a village, and that village has got you going in the direction that you want to go, man. And obviously you're the engine at the center of that. But yeah, we got together, and the fact that you brought all those people over, you got a professional film crew to be there, and you got it all for a really decent budget. I mean, honestly, I tell all my friends in Hollywood, I'm like, if you need a producer, he can't work for you yet, but he will do a better job than your entire team if you can just get him out here, you know? So yeah, I'll always remember like the first day, because it wasn't my first day in the woods doing something like that, but it felt like I was back to day one, you know, that excitement in the air, and how, you know, everyone's nervous, but also like they can't wait to get going and thrilled. And I'll almost throw it back to you. Like, how were your emotions that day one, knowing that from that one moment where you saw Bigfoot on TV with your grandpa, cut to what, a year later, year and a half later, or two, or whatever it is, but in a very short amount of time, you're now filming and working with people who had been doing it for years, and you just, oh yeah, I'm going to throw this together real quick. How are you feeling? Like, that's amazing. It's amazing.
It kind of and say, Chris, me and you had this conversation the other day, and we were looking back at kind of when we're actually discussing last time we were starstruck with you guys, and I gotta say, it was one of the first meetings that we ever had, and Chris messaged me halfway through to go, this is effing awesome. And it's that kind of seeing you on there, Ryan, Ronnie, and Renee, and then obviously having the other stars on there as well was quite realistic. And then when we actually got filming, it was amazing. And so before I kind of throw Chris a question, I'll say that you guys only found out as we were going out that myself, Nan, Dad, it was our first time out in the dark.
I know, that blew my mind. I was like,
yeah.
Wait, really?
Now, to everyone that is watching, we as I said, this documentary is as just it's more emotional. It's more about the family journey than what you think. And something that I keep remembering, I keep watching in that doc. Now I knew this already, and I am gonna say it, and Chris knows it's coming because I'm gonna say it. I said I'm afraid of the dark. I am. It's now that has grown on me. And it's kind
Right
of
away, throwing him under the bus.
And it was like, oh, now obviously anxiety's high. And Chris offered to go in front of me. Me and Chris were walking up this ridge. Obviously, cameras beside me, and we're up there, and there's a beautiful piece of footage of where Chris is sat there watching me. It's beautiful, and we come back down, and Chris then. And I think it was you who said it, Ryan. Chris then says, "Can we turn the cameras off?" And Ryan went, "Why?" And then Chris then says, and this is a surprise because Chris is an amazing guy, and I call him my teddy bear. But he then says that he's also afraid of the dark. So that is where it's just so amazing that I did that for the first time, but then knowing that Chris did it as well, that was an amazing piece of an amazing memory that I think we kind of made together. Would you agree, Ryan?
For me, yeah, I think that is an absolutely beautiful moment, right? Like that you two shared. You conquered a little bit of the dark, he conquered a little bit of the dark, and we all did it as this little tight-knit community. Beautiful. One of my favorite moments from the whole thing. And I probably would have said the same thing. Hey, turn the cameras off. I'm going to admit something. But let's go back to what I said before. It's confidence. Never be ashamed to be confident about how you are feeling in a moment. That's the truth. We all have to fall back in love with the truth so that we can live wide open and completely the way we're supposed to. And so I want to say, yeah, easier for you to say that, Daniel, because you're younger. For Chris, that's real. We'd laugh, but yeah, that's a big deal. Like, I'm a little nervous in the dark. And you didn't even, I mean, Chris is a giant. Chris was ex-Queen's Guard. Chris is the guy you bring in to take care of Liam Neeson when he's out of control and killing everybody. You bring Chris in to stop Liam Neeson. And he's sitting there going, yep, that's the most uncomfortable I've felt in a while. Life is so much more beautiful if you're just honest and you let it out. And right, it brought us closer together and nothing bad's happened. It's not like we're constantly shutting the lights off on Chris now saying, are you scared? And I love that you guys got to share that together on that moment because it was a big deal. There's more people than we know that are nervous and scared to speak the truth, and you don't need to be, So.
And say even from the UK. Now I can't wait to get into the US. But there's someone else backstage, and I can't wait to bring them on. So we'll do it in a minute. But even in the UK, we built that bond together, didn't we? We all left that site and we all went back home, back to our regular lives. And within 24 hours, the first thing that we all did is message going, I wish we were back in that forest. So from that UK, we had bonded that. That was done. We'd absolutely cemented that. Now, Chris, I'll throw this question to you. Ryan asked me the same. When you first came on site, and how did you feel? Now, obviously, you've watched these guys a lot more than I have. So, from 30 years of kind of going around the US, and how did you feel
when I first met the team?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we met together first and had a meal, didn't we, before we went out? So it was kind of like a little bit starstruck for a while, but everybody's so easy to get on with. And then we were talking about animals and where we've been traveling, and I was trying to find photos from 10 years ago on Facebook, and because I was like, oh, I got to show him. I've done that, yeah. But we soon settled down into a good little group, a good friendly group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now he
was excited. Is basically what he's saying.
He's been as kind of cool. Oh yeah. But he's not off the phone, guys. He's very, very excited.
Jumping jacks on the inside.
I don't know what Chris you're talking about, but yeah.
I can't believe I'm on this podcast. So the other thing that I'll say about the UK is we had some weird stuff happen, didn't we?
Yeah.
It was weird. And say, so I'm not gonna say all of the surprises because I'm gonna leave a couple, but Compass. Now, any of you who were at the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference, and we'll go on to that in a second, 2024, we showed a trailer or a teaser trailer that showed our compasses spinning. Now, things happened here in the UK, and we keep forgetting about that because of what happened here in the US. But there was some amazing things that actually went on in the UK, and this documentary has just kind of grown as it's and it's evolved. So let's move on to the
Well, wait, can we talk about that just for a sec? Can we just give a little detail on it?
Yeah.
So go ahead,
Absolutely.
Chris. I thought you were gonna say something.
Well, so we were kind of there was throughout this whole journey. There's been so many cliches, right, which we'll really hammer home later. But we had the compassing, we had all these odd things, and if you remember, we caught the deer running full breakneck speed through the forest on thermal camera. Right? Think about it. What were they running from? Because they were actually running towards us and then veered away. Now, we don't have predators in the UK that can take down deer other than a Ford Transit van. You know, deer do not have stuff to run away from other than humans. So what were they running from? It's there on they were flat out. And they came down the valley, down the what ravine? What is it? Down to the riverbed.
We're kind of
straight across and away. So they sort of initially came towards us, but then carried off at a right angle to us. And it only came to me the other day. I thought, hang on a minute, they're flat out. What were they running from?
Yeah, and they would normally never run toward the hunters or the predator. So that's really bizarre. And also, just so people understand, imagine being with a group of people and you want things to happen, but it's just like a normal timeout. And then all of a sudden you look at your compass and you're like, okay, mine's north, and someone else, wait, mine's south, and you're standing in the same spot. Like, mine's east, mine's spinning. And I hope that for everyone. Like when you do these adventures, a lot of weird things happen in the UK.
I agree with that.
Yeah, so like just imagine coming to a spot with a bunch of people who are wide open to the fact that there is weird stuff and we all collectively want to figure it out. And then we are suddenly find ourselves standing in a location which had other things weird about it, where our compasses are just going crazy. So I don't know how much we can say about it, but
I've got a piece of footage and I can't wait for people to see it where you're going, it's just awesome. It's just awesome.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, because for those of us that do this, most of the time, nothing happens, or at least nothing happens. And later you check all your footage, you go through it, and you're like, oh, there, I heard it, right? So, and you're in the moment, you're dealing with people, but we shared a moment of high strangeness all together, and that was cool because normally you're by yourself or with one person, but we were all tripping out on this. So yeah, I can't wait to see that.
Just
that was cool.
Before quickly, somebody there in the comments, Sharon. Hello, Sharon. We have a lot of weird things happening in the UK. Yes, we do. And stand by because we got something special for you guys soon.
Legend Seekers.
What was that? So I didn't catch that. What?
Legend Speakers.
Okay. All right. Okay. No. Keep an eye out for that, Sharon.
So to everyone out there, we are going to have two special guests join us, and one is a little bit late because I know that he doesn't like us, so it's just not fun, is it? So
on his list.
Skip to the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference. Now, I got this call in January, so it was before I met you, Ryan, and we were preparing to go to the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference, and we couldn't wait for this. Mm-hmm. So I've had the pleasure of knowing this wonderful person. Now, I will brag a little bit, and he can brag this in a minute. I've known him longer than all of you.
Yeah, right.
And I actually have it. I think, and he'll correct me in a minute, it might have been 13. I would have just turned 13. And this guy has been wonderful, and you guys can back me up on this, that he has been one of the best people in our team, and he was a pivotal character for the moment that we'll go into a little bit later. But he is a wonderful, wonderful person. Would you guys agree?
If you pay me enough money.
Yeah.
No. Listen, let me just say, on your journey in Bigfooting or investigating anything, I always go like, who would you believe if they said to you, I had this experience? And that list will get small. You know, for me, it's like a lot of retired first responders. They're first on scene for this high stranger. So when somebody like we're going to introduce next comes up and they have an experience, I am more inclined to not only believe, but get excited. And the beauty of this film is it's very hard to fake the emotion when somebody has something very special happen to them. And this individual had that. And well, all these individuals did.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. So, true beauty.
I think all of you possibly know who I am talking about. So please welcome to the stage, Mr. Sasquatch Odyssey, Mr. Brian King Sharp.
What's up, fellas? Hello, everybody.
There you are.
Hey, how you doing? How's your mama now?
How's your face? How's your elbow?
How are you, Mr. BKS?
I am amazing, man. I've been backstage listening. As you were talking about that, Ryan, it reminds me from what was like 2 years ago. I was up on stage with you at the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference, and I asked you the question, are you having fun or something? I was nervous as hell in front of like 3,000 people, and I said something stupid like, are you having fun? And you said, no, actually, it's really sucking. It's just a horrible thing. So that kind of reminded me of that. But anyway, that's an inside thing.
Yeah.
And I believe, Brian, is this Wayne?
Yes, that would be Wayne. He would be the only person in chat that would call me that name.
Hey, buddy. How's things? So moving on to the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference then. So I knew that RPG was going to be there. Mr. Brian King Sharp got there, and it was fantastic. Now, we got over to Florida. Rene was going to be there. We had Russ there. It was a fantastic conference. Now, when I stood up on stage at the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference, it was the first time I'd ever stood up in front of people and spoke. I got a feeling I did a good job, but okay. And say it was great for RPG to introduce me, and that is that is in the doc. And say it was just an amazing time there. So before I go into it, guys, it was amazing. It was amazing to be there, wasn't it?
I'll just jump in real quick. I just say that to be a part of your journey, for you to be selectively mute and find your voice, and to be there in the moment where, and listen, we all get nervous, right? You know, even I've done so many now, I still have that rush, but I love that rush. And to see you stand and deliver, I don't know what angle people need to get in to be into Bigfoot or paranormal, whatever, but you are a great entry into this subject if you want to talk about a true victory, you know. And we all have our own different stories, but you're inspiring. You know what I mean? And I think we need more role models like that to show kids, like, dude, you just need passion and a good support system around you, and you can do anything. And that was what was so amazing about that moment, is knowing, I don't know, I love you, but I loved watching your family more in that moment, because nobody was rooting harder at that moment. And we all love you, but like, I could just see your dad, you know, he's like shaking. It's so powerful. So kudos to parenting, and kudos to you for standing and delivering when you got your opportunity. That's big.
And say, go on,
I'm not a parent. I'm not a father outside of my four-legged kids, but I tell you, you're the closest.
As a parent,
you're one of the closest things I've ever had to a son, and it was one of the proudest moments I have ever had in my life, is seeing you stand up there and deliver the way that you did.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to get emotional. I don't want to be the first one today.
Fine.
It's the truth.
It's the truth.
I watched your dad Craig, who I love like a brother from another mother, and I saw how proud he was in that moment, and it was one of the greatest things I've ever experienced. So, if you weren't there, sorry about it. Go ahead and get your tickets for next year. You never know what you're going to miss. Probably not, Daniel. That was a once in a lifetime thing, and to be a part of that in just a small, minute way was one of the greatest things I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
And say to be there, not even the conference was fantastic, but one of the most memorable moments, and unfortunately, Ryan, you weren't there because you were off just having fun without, and it was. I remember it was me, Dad, and you, Brian, that were sat along the bar after that, and we were talking about that. That is one of the best moments I can remember from that, because that was fantastic. Wouldn't you agree?
Hands down, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So to do that talk at the Great Florida was just fantastic, and I think to do it with you guys there again, Chris was too busy. He was just like, guys, I'm too busy, I can't come.
He was getting my hair done that day.
He was fighting Liam Neeson. I'm sure he was somewhere in the corner taking out Liam Neeson.
So far, Liam Neeson's okay because he's kept it under his hat. It's Chuck Norris.
Oh well, there you go.
I had to educate that guy. Nice guy after that, but yeah.
So after that, guys, we had already or I'll kind of go back to Ryan. So we had it was actually in the UK, wasn't it? It was the last day in the UK. You made a joke. Okay. It was me. Yes, you it was me, Monica, who was and I'll just take a minute to say Monica is a fantastic person, and she is the one that's actually made this happen. So it has been fantastic to kind of have you make this happen. It was me, you, and Monica, and we were ordering food, and you went, well, next is the Pacific Northwest, and I can remember the look that I had at Monica. Me and Monica both looked at each other going, well, do you want to discuss dates? And you went, what? I was only kidding. I was literally only kidding. And we're like, well, to be honest, it's a good idea. And it was a week after you left, we then started planning it, didn't we? So when we got to the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference, we actually knew that we were going to go to the Pacific Northwest, and we knew that we were going to actually get there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference where I said to Dad, I said to Ryan, why don't we invite someone very, very special along with us? And to be completely honest, and I don't want to make him cry again, but in the UK, I did my conference in July. This was after the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference. Monica said to me and sat me down and went, I loved Brian being at the UK because, Brian, it was a fantastic time to have you in the UK. And she took me aside, and it's no joke, she took me inside and went, we need Brian in the Pacific Northwest. We need him there. I messaged Ryan, and Chris just then agreed, and we're like, we need him there. Dad agreed, and we're like, you are one of the best characters to have on that journey with us. And I gotta say, mate, I think it worked out. I think it worked out perfectly. So, right, to everyone out there, we are now going to get towards it now. Okay, we're going to go deep dive, and we're going to get to it. Now, Ryan, you ready for this? Brian, Chris, you ready
and
for
I
this?
just want to add a little to the front. It's all about who would you believe if someone came to you and said, I had this amazing experience. To me, Brian is 100% one of those people, given his history, his passion, and the fact that he's looking for truth, not just a crazy experience. And so as we go into this, I think you have your choice of people to decide whether or not what happened to us was real or not. And we're all saying it was real. So I'm excited.
So I will start at the beginning.
It's all right if you're into that sort of thing. I love this guy. This is great.
I will start at the beginning of the Pacific Northwest trip. So in the dock, there's a twist, isn't there? And there are a couple of things happen. It makes everyone very, very emotional. including myself, because that was a very, very hard time. And I don't want to give all of that away, not because I don't want to, but I want you to see that first and foremost for yourself, of exactly what happened. And it was a very, very hard moment for us all. We eventually got to the Pacific Northwest, and I remember driving through. It was driving through Seattle. Once we got out of Seattle, it was myself, Nanny and Gramps and Dad, and Dad was like, "Oh, I'm shattered." And then we come into this beauty, and it was incredible to actually get into there. And driving through it, and if Dad's watching, if Nanny and Gramps are watching, can you remember driving across that bridge, driving across the lake, seeing all down the valley? It was fantastic, and I can't have seen anything better. And we then got to the hotel, and I saw you guys come out, and it was a best moment. And then we went to that was it like a Pizza Hut, was it, or pizza kind of bar? It was a proper kind of country pub,
yeah.
wasn't it? Yeah.
Mhm.
And then so we then hung there for the first time, and it was just fantastic. And we were in the middle of nowhere. I then turned around and go, "Yeah, I've come all this way, massive kind of what's the word, journey. I want to get into the forest." My question is, I hope your answer is, what is the plan when you see one of these creatures
I like his
again?
beard.
Well, I will probably, Brian, if you kind of hold that question, because we'll come back to that at the end. So I said, I need to go in the forest. I've just come all this way, so we need to go in the forest. So we went up with a very, very good buddy of yours, and as everyone knows, the legendary James Bobo Fay, and myself, Ryan, and Dad took a trip all through the hills. Dad's like, "Where the hell are we going? You're taking my son and in the forest, Ryan. Are you sure you're doing something that's quite sensible?" And we had a couple of weird things happen again. It may pop up in the doc, but to be out with James Bobo Fay for the very first time was just fantastic. And say there's a lot of stuff that and I know that there's a lot of questions, such with Finding Bigfoot, Expedition Bigfoot, Expedition X, things like that, of what goes on but behind the camera. Well, behind the camera is also a very different story. There's so many different things that also go on behind the camera. And say I think we've been quite lucky that we've had two very different stories that were behind the camera and in front, but all of it was very, very pure. There, it wasn't forced, was it? Would you guys agree with me?
Yeah.
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 So we can't.
Is that a dog butt? Did I say dog butt?
Yeah.
Hey, let's
Danger Dog.
I
Dog.
want to just preface this too. What is it? That's Danger Dog.
Yeah.
I don't know why I leaned forward to see if I could look down better, but I really just did that. So just if you want to, but I honestly thought I could see him better. Oh my goodness. Hey, let's just take a moment, and we're not going into any detail here because that's left for the film. But this journey was incredibly organic, and just like any good film, there comes a point where your hero basically says, "No, I don't want to win. I don't want my prize. I don't want anything. It's too much." And you know, we'll save it for when you watch the film, but just please understand, this film has everything. It has a young man learning to find his voice through Bigfoot, which is powerful for all of us. But we were also threatened before and almost couldn't get on that plane, which is really, really powerful. And it doesn't matter that Daniel has autism. Anybody threatened to go somewhere and being afraid that not only them, but the people they're with could potentially be in danger when they get there, that would scare anybody, you know? And this young man had to face that because he was two people in that moment. He was a young boy, you know, but he was also the leader of a team of adventurers. So he had a duty to uphold, but he also had his own natural fears as a young man. And he had to do something that I don't know if I could have done. I don't know if I would have been able to get on that plane, but you did it, buddy. You did it, and you got on. And our third act began by you conquering the biggest fear possible, which is the threat of physical harm. And that's huge. And we'll just leave it there. That's all that needs to be said.
Absolutely.
But the fact that you did it and you got us there, I know you throw it to all of us and we help, but that was you and your family. So I want to, this is one of the, I won't go too much, but one of the greatest things you watch behind the scenes, like how are movies made? How are TV shows? And you watch them and you're like, how did that even get made? It shouldn't have gotten made. This film should have never been finished, but we did it. And we did it because we didn't let life completely knock us off the horse, and we stayed on and we kept going. And I just wanted a shout out to you and your family for doing that, because that was some hard shit. Pardon my French.
And I gotta say, that Chris, you were with me, weren't you? And I gotta say to everyone out there, again, in that doc, you have some very, very pure moments, and that is one of them. Because Chris was with me, and it was just a moment where I can't really explain, and I want to leave it for the doc, but a lot of you have heard everything, and kind of we've stayed very, very, very quiet. But it's that kind of we tell nothing but the truth, and I gotta say, I can't speak for Chris, but that was one of the hardest days of my life, and I gotta say, I will speak for the family as well, that it was a very, very hard day, and I gotta say, Chris, you might have found that quite hard. So I'll leave it for you, Chris, to say that last note, and then we'll get on to what happened. And
yeah, I think it's for the American people that are listening in. They may have heard about this, but the British people, when they think they're getting bullied, it's like, I think the correct term is you're opening a can of whoop ass. Like, we do not care if we are going to run into 1,000 demons with flaming torches. You ain't bullying nobody, mofo. We're coming for you. That's the British mentality. That's why we were such arseholes 200 years ago and conquered the whole world. Because the minute we think, not on my watch, and that's it. We're like sticks of dynamite. So for me personally, when I saw that unfolding, but I've never flown a plane before, but I think I could have given it a go. I certainly could have given it a go. I don't need to worry about the landing because I know where I would have put it.
and
I've got a visual.
We will enter that point, because I know that Brian and Ryan and myself and Chris, we all know where that would have landed, and I will assure all of you, it will come out soon. It will come out soon. But we kind of just wanted to address that. That it happened, and that things will unfold in the doc, and we can't wait for you to see that bit, to actually see what really happens. Now, so we're in Seattle, and there were some weird things that happened on the night where I went with Ryan, and Ryan was taking me in the middle of nowhere, and I was actually like, do I actually trust this guy, or is he just going to leave us in the middle of the Pacific Northwest alone with I don't know.
You're the best mate possible. Hate to tell you.
So, and this question here, I think, yes, I think we have one person here. I don't know about BKS, but
yeah,
I believe Ryan is.
I'll be emceeing that gig, and I cannot wait. I'm so excited to work with them. They've put something phenomenal together, and it's massive. It's supposed to be like 60,000 people possibly over the course of 3 days. That's Coachella. That's not a Bigfoot. That's so bravo to being able to put something like that on and keep all those people happy. That's amazing. So,
yeah. And my answer to that question is I will ruin the entire doc if I tell you. Right.
That's the producer in him, ladies and gentlemen. That's the producer.
So imagine this, right, Daniel? Correct me if I'm wrong, but imagine coming from a very difficult point where you think, I'm done with this and I'm walking away. People are too crazy. And then, so what would it take for someone to then be latched back in? Now, I will say this: Daniel didn't need this. He did it on his own. But I think it might have helped knowing that he was going to the Pacific Northwest, the Mecca for bigfooting in a lot of our heads, to meet one of the most wonderful people in the space, one of the true gods on the pantheon, demigods up there, and who happens to be one of my greatest friends. And that was how we helped transition from something so dark and sad to something so full of light and wonderful. And once again, I throw that back to people, like, focus on your journey. Don't focus on all the little things that pop up to try to knock you off it. They're there on purpose to make sure this is the journey you want. And that's how I know 100% these people right here on it, this is our journey, because we didn't have to keep going, you know?
No. And say once we kind of got over that initial emotion, I'm now going to go into the first day. Now I'm going to chuck it to Mr. Brian King Sharp in a second. Now, if we just explain how the first day works. So we needed some crew to go and pick up the star, Mr. James Bobo Fay. So I said, do you know what? Do you want to go and do a bit of scouting? So it was myself, Chris, it was Nan and Gramps, Brian was there. And we decided to go in the woods, didn't we? And I think we possibly made a mistake by doing that. So Brian, I will chuck it to you, mate, to explain what happened in the first bit.
Yeah, so the interesting part, there's a ton that goes on behind the scenes, like Ryan was referring to earlier, that we're not going to get into. So there's a lot of inner workings. There's teams being split up, going in different directions. And that first day, we were actually going out to scout an area where we're going to do a night hike, at least one night hike, possibly two after that, to film. And that's when we started having activity. Part of us were walking in the woods middle of the day, and we're hearing something walking along. We're hearing something that's whistling at us that nobody could really explain, where there wasn't supposed to be other people. And that was kind of the first moment where I was like, wow, I feel like we're having something going on here. And that first day, we're going to this area where there was a bridge across this area where there's some water underneath. It was a really thick area. We didn't know how thick it was until after we tried to formulate a plan to maybe get in there and find out what we had experienced, but we could tell it was pretty thick. And I was hearing this whistling. We were all hearing this whistling, like systematically. I guess the word would be systematic. And I'm looking in the area where I heard the whistles last, and there's huge trees out there. This is some old growth kind of trees. And I look up probably 70, 75 yards away from us, and I see something peeking around a tree. And it was like this really quick peek. You know, we've heard those stories. I've probably documented 1,000 stories at this point. And a lot of people talk about this sort of quick peek, that tree peeking kind of, it's almost a stereotypical experience with the Sasquatch. I see it once, I see it twice, 3 times within just a few seconds. And I'm like, holy shit, guys, I'm seeing something up here. I'm pointing, telling everybody what's going on. There's a little bit of excitement. Now, I do the Occam's razor thing. I do the self-doubt thing. I'm a very skeptical person. Anybody who knows me in Bigfoot knows.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Shocker. That was going to be on the director's cut. Brian is a skeptic. Can you believe that?
It was almost the title of the doc, Brian. Did you know that? Yeah.
That would have been great. But I'm very skeptical. So I'm thinking, okay, was that a squirrel going around the tree? I'm doing all the things right. But I saw a face. I saw something that wasn't supposed to be there. So obviously, Chris and I are trying to formulate plans on how can we get there? Can we get through this stuff? You know, we probably could have gotten there, but it just wasn't worth the investment at that point for us to try to do that. So we pressed on and we go on and we continue our scouting for the area because that was the most important thing. We were already kind of behind schedule because of some of the things that happened before you guys left the UK. Again, you guys will see that in the doc and it'll make way more sense. We're not trying to be cryptic here. It's the nature of the beast, but you'll see that and it'll make perfect sense to you that we were behind schedule. So we had to press on. We had a job to do. Everybody had their marching orders. we got to get back on track. So our job was to scout this area. So that's what we ultimately did. But I left that moment thinking, albeit maybe 3 seconds of my life at that point, I just saw a Sasquatch. So I am already excited, but I am beyond excited at that point that I think I've just had a daytime Class A sighting from 75 yards away of one of these creatures. So that was kind of the highlight for me for the first day. I don't know about everybody else.
Hold on, not highlight of the whole trip. No. And say, guys,
Brian got to have all the good stuff happen to him. I want to reshoot.
Yeah,
I want to reshoot.
I've just remembered, Chris and Brian. This is the first time Ryan is hearing the story.
I've never heard that. I was like, why is he telling me?
They've never heard about this story. Now, I'm going to possibly pass this to Chris because I know what's about to come up. Because I tell you what, Chris, I'm just going to let you take the lead because I know you know what's about to come up. Go ahead.
This is like the CIA. We're compartmentalizing information. Ryan didn't even know that. I didn't even, because he was the other part of the team. So go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned cliches. You remember? Before we left, and I spoke to Daniel about this the other day. Don't you remember the black helicopter buzzing us before we left? We thought nothing.
Yes.
We thought nothing of. We thought nothing of it. But later on, I don't know. It kind of got blacked out. But as all of our guests say, the most important thing you take when you go out researching is a notebook and pen, because you write everything down and write it down. Yeah, because before we even set off, we got buzzed by a black helicopter, and just ridiculous when you look back at what happened. But we were trying to hone in on what Brian was looking at from the bridge, and I had my GoPro on, and the camera crew were there, and it was that crazy thing where what you want me to talk about the?
Yeah, I'm talking about you running through the forest before we find the log.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that was after when we set off up the trail, right?
Yes. Yeah.
What did we get? We got sounds coming. Yeah. So we set up the trail, which left that small ravine, the river, rocky ravine to the left, and we kind of got things that would indicate somebody was following us by walking deep in the forest, and we'd stop, it would stop. And so we walked off up around the bend, probably about 150 yards in front of you, and then turned and ran straight back through the forest, straight towards you guys, to try and spook something to move and we could all get a look. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we didn't. But we did find somebody had a picnic. Somebody had a picnic. What I found was a lot of fallen trees there covered in moss. They've been there for decades, and some big ones. And whilst I was telling these guys, no, I didn't see anything move, and I stood right next to a pile of rosehip seeds, the husks.
Monkey nuts.
Monkey nuts, yeah. We didn't know what we needed to use Google Lens to find out what they were. And but there was a pile of 60 or 70 of them on one tree, fallen tree. They'd been placed there, like somebody was sat there having a chow, and there was no people there. So and it's on my camera. There's no rosehip bushes nearby. These seeds had been peeled back. There was no gnaw marks on them from little animals, and that got me looking at the moss on the tree, which showed very clearly an enormous set of butt cheeks. Somebody sat there with a big arsenet rosehip seed. And I said, guys, you need to come and look at this. And as you came to me, you found a mirror image of it, probably 20, 30 feet away. Somebody had been sat there eating rosehip. And
I love that comment.
These
Absolutely.
nuts.
Layman, I did not get my nuts eaten in the forest. I don't know what kind of movie you think this is. I don't know.
It's PG-13, by the way. It's PG-13.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I wanted to add something really interesting, too, if you don't mind. So a lot of it has to do with luck. Because it's a big world out there, even though TV likes to make it seem like it's a lot smaller. But it's also about timing, right? This is a time of year that we were there where all the berries are fat and delicious. We were literally waiting to get on the ferry. We were jumping out of the car and filling our cups with the berries and eating them. So imagine you're in the mecca of Bigfooting, and on the edges of every forest, of every verdant area, are just bushes of berries. So in our humble opinion, that would draw something that is normally very shy and loves to stay hidden, but it would bring it to the edge so that there is this interaction between us and them. And that was what was going on from the day we got there, because they were already there, and where we were at, which we can't really say where we were at. It's a very special location, something very dear to my heart that I'm very proud and excited that we got to all go there.
Actually, I go on, say it.
Well, if I was an intelligent species, I would notice that of all these places on this trail, there seems to be only one spot where the people leaving, coming and going from it are actually calling to us and trying to communicate with us, right? So it would be a place that if I had somebody looking out as my children were eating or my family was about, this would be a place of interest. And of course, that's where we launched from. So I think a lot of the interactions we were having is based on really good timing on our part. So.
And I will say, I just want to put a big thank you out to Shane Coulson and Derek Randalls. I want to put because they helped us with that journey, and they are a massive kind of part of this journey, but not actually camera to face. So I just wanted to say a massive thank you to them. So we have a question. Honestly, what would you all do if you caught up with one of like face to face? Well, we'll get onto that in a minute.
We'll get onto that in a documentary,
because we actually did something. So
come on. Right. So basically that was the entire day. Now Chris has forgotten the best bit of all. Chris is bringing home one souvenir, and the only souvenir he brings home from Seattle is what, Chris?
That whiskey, Knob Creek.
You ask him to be honest, so he's going to be honest.
I did.
Oh, there might have been two.
The other one.
Yeah.
You brought back.
I brought back. Yeah. Let's hope nobody from customs is watching this.
Oh boy.
Unchewed, peeled rosehips. Yeah.
We all prefer monkey nuts.
Monkey nuts, and I gotta say this is one of my best behind the scenes moment. So we're doing kind of a show where it's myself, Ryan, Brian, and Chris, and then Chris goes, "This is what equipment I have," and then someone just shouts the word monkey nuts. Now we actually got told off by the camera crew because they were still rolling, going, "This is costing us money," and you're at the moment all laughing on the floor because of a phrase called monkey nuts. Now you guys can all back me up on that, can't you?
Boys will be boys.
That's right. Yeah. It was a beautiful moment, still is, always will be.
So, right, I'm gonna get into it. So, on the actual day that this happened, now the guys that are coming from Brian's podcast, you know what we're about to go into. The guys that are on the other streaming platforms, maybe you guys don't. Now, this is one of the moments, and in the description in this podcast, I put this is one of the moments that changed every one of our lives, including the behind the scenes cast and the actual crew. Now, before I go in, a lot of people went there not believing in Bigfoot at all. And like not even only in it because they were with us. We went in believing. And I think one of the strongest stories possible in this, and I'm not going to make him cry again, is Brian. Because Brian actually says on camera, I can't believe I've just had that. I've been so skeptical about Bigfoot that I can't believe I've just had that. And that is where, for us, it made people believe. So for someone to go not even believing to knowing that this thing is, I'm like that. That's just, yeah, that's just incredible to go from. So it's been raining all day. All right, we've been doing interviews. We've been doing other things throughout the day, pick up stuff, and then it finally stops raining, and we go, yeah, it's not gonna rain all night on us, and we're not gonna come home absolutely drenched. So we are going into the forest, and I'm gonna pass it to all of you now. Is before we stepped in there, before we actually went in there, what did you think was gonna happen? Ryan, Chris, then Brian.
Okay, I'll just preface it. So if you're really interested in making contact with forest people or whatever you want to call it, makes you feel comfortable, the greatest advice I was ever given was by Native Americans, and it said to be respectful. So let them know you're coming ahead of time, whether you call that prayer, telepathy, or just visualizing what you're doing, manifestation. Let them know where you're going to be, and then when you get there, you say, thank you for letting us come into your home. This is your place that we're going to go into. You leave them a little gift, which is just something small and simple, no big deal. And then you enter their house. It's, in my opinion, it's the equivalent of knocking, just to let them know you're there. Just to kind of set it up, and if I'm going a little too far, I don't think so, but before the climax of this story, I was wearing multiple hats. So I was not only being a person in the film, but I was also helping showrun the thing and just make sure we're staying on track. And we had reached a point that night where, yeah, little things are happening, little things, but it was, to be honest, more like a typical investigation. Is it happening? Is it not? I think it is, but no fireworks. Okay. So I, in my head as the producer now, is the showrunner is thinking, okay, I got to find a finishing spot. So I actually go up ahead to go find just a final resting spot, because we had, once again, we had more people than you usually have when you do something like this. Most people would say go in with 1 or 2 and you're going to have something happen to you. Don't go in with, like, what were we, close to like 14 people or something crazy?
People, yeah.
It was that, and I was about to say that a lot of you guys go, you have to go in quietly, and we weren't making a secret that we were there. We were loud. Gramps had. And I'm going to try not to make myself laugh, because I know what Brian knows what I'm about to say. Gramps had to go with James Bobo Faye's Wood Knocker, which was fun. And just to clarify, it was a piece of wood, and it was the actual knocker that he had on Finding Bigfoot. So it, but we weren't making any secret. We had lights everywhere, and it was like, it wasn't, if you guys are thinking that it's a oh, they were creeping in and oh, they happened to see Bigfoot. No. This is we're wandering in and we're just talking like we were during the day. And I think that's a tactic that people rule out. But obviously it worked. Keep going, Ryan.
So I had gone up ahead. They had all kind of stopped at this one location, and as far as I was concerned, they were taking a little break, regrouping. So I go up and I find a spot. I have, like, you got that weird feeling, but you can't tell if it's because you're already on edge because of what you're doing, or there is legitimately something watching you. But, you have a feeling. Well, I go up, I find the spot. I'm like, all right, we got to end this. We got to get Nanny Gramps back. We're making a show or a documentary, but also trying to have true experience. So I come back down, and all I can tell you is that was my mindset. Got to finish this, got to find the spot. And I walk into an energy field that is positively electric. Like, something's going on. No one even has to say anything to me yet, but what's happening? And then I will pass it back, because I just came back and stepped into what's going on. We're live action.
I will be completely honest, and I will pass it over to Brian and Chris in a second to actually say what happened on the other side.
Yeah.
But when Ryan went, we saw something, and Dad immediately said to me, "Where's Ryan?" Because at that point, we're like, we need Ryan back here, because otherwise we could prove this wrong. Okay.
Oh, it could have been me. You guys might have been hearing me, which you didn't know. Yeah. And so I'm like, and it was not me. I'm
never forget that moment where I see Ryan's torch and I run towards it. And I grab Ryan's hand and I'm pulling him back towards the team. I will never forget that moment. I grabbed you like that, and I'm pulling you back towards the team. And he's like, "What the hell is going on?" And at that point, our code word, someone just said the word pineapple, because and that was our code word. I will never ever forget that moment where we picked that code word. And
I wanted snorkel, by the way, but we went with
we were all walking in line, weren't we? I can't actually remember what form we were, but Bobo was kind of towards the back, and then you just hear this pineapple. Everyone stops. Ryan's gone, and we go, "What the hell is going on?" And I'll pass that to Chris and Brian.
Just before that happened, the cliche. First of all, Max was out in front of us taking photographs of us coming up through the forest. Max was a amateur photographer or whatever. He's studying at college. He suddenly came back to me and said, "I don't feel very comfortable out there anymore." I said, "Maybe it's Bigfoot sending you the signal." And he laughed. I said, "Well, don't laugh. That's what they do." Just before it happened. And then, second cliche, the cameras started going down.
Oh, they did, didn't they?
My infrared camera went down. It just said it wasn't plugged in. And then one of these are $60,000 cameras. Yeah. One of them just shuts down, and the guy's like, "What the hell's wrong with this?" You know, and it's all there. And then you get a knock, and everybody's like, "What was that? That could have been an elk horn." But then you got a response, and then you got that trill, that whistle.
Yeah,
which I can't. I've tried a dozen times. I can't. But you know, and then you got a response, and then that's when we started. Let's have a little look. See.
And say I going back to that point. I remember there was a point where we were all stood in a line, and the sound stopped working. Because, and again, behind the scenes moment, everyone, here we go. We all decided to, lads needed the toilet. And the sound was working perfectly because Dad had the sound on, and we're all mic'd up. So, and Brian just laughed his head off at that point. It was just funny. And see, guys, we have so many amazing moments that weren't filmed. And it was literally just up the road, wasn't it? It is in just up the path. It wasn't far. Yeah. So it all switched off, and I can remember me and you were sat kind of me and you, Chris, were just like, "Why is this not working?" And then I'll carry it until you can take it, Brian. Is Bobo has his thermal facing kind of the tree line, and goes. He swears a little bit and goes, "What is that?" And I'm now stood like this close to him, and we're now looking in front. And Boba goes, "Someone needs to go out there." And this hand just goes up and goes, "And it's me." And Brian, off you go, mate.
Yeah, man. As soon as Bobo turns around and asks who's going to go towards whatever this big heat signature is, I'm like, "I'm going, dude. This is what I came for." It was at that point, that was the only mission that I had, because I was a cop for 16 years. I'm one of those people, like you get that fight or flight situation. I'm always running towards the gunfire, right? I'm the guy that's running into the fire. I'm running into the gunfight. And if there's something out there that I came to see, I'm heading that direction. So I was immediately headed that direction. And I immediately regretted it about 25 yards into the woods.
set up the woods, Brian. Like, set up what we were walking into to have this experience. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it is so. I'm so glad you said that, Ryan. I've tried to talk about it once we were able to talk about this a couple of months ago. There was so much deadfall. There was so much undergrowth, underbrush. It was just gnarly, dude. I don't know any other way to describe it other than just gnarly as hell. After all of the things that transpired over the course of this evening transpired, we all went back out there in the middle of the day the next day, and I was like, holy shit, how did I not break an ankle or a leg?
We all could have broken something that, honestly, and say we weren't actually sure whether we could get back up there. And it was that kind of, even Dad went, how the hell? And kind of we're skipping forward a bit, but I am going to say I will never forget that moment. I've got Chris's arm like this, But then my arm has got Dad down here, and we're going up a ridge, and I'm jumping over trees. I'm like, I'm either going to break my arm or break my legs. Chris is like, we have to go, mate. We have to go. So no time. So he picked me up, and we're over trees, and we're diving over leaves. I am not sure how either one of us fell down a hole, but there was one moment where Ryan falls over, and I gotta say, I've never laughed so hard because that was just funny.
I just, while Sack was going on, where we'd already had one bit where the ground was that rocky, and I think I'd stepped up about 18 inches, and you were hanging onto my arm, and your dad was hanging on, and because of that, I stopped, and then bang, you two crushed into me, and it's no problem. Then we go up a little further, and everything's so pitch black, and I feel the tree trunk lying down, come up against my hip and stomach, and I stop, and you get that moment, like I know you two are about to pile into the back of me, and I kind of pre-cringe. I'm like, oh, this is gonna hurt. It absolutely just disintegrated into nothing. As soon as the force of 3 people came away, it just like flicking cigarette ash or something. I was like, oh, thank you.
Honestly, Dad asked me, and it was on the way up. It's on camera. He goes, "You right, mate?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm on Chris." And then Dad falls over. So we're constantly asking each other, "Are you okay?" But then you fall over. So, Brian, do you want to take, just before this happens, you and Chris went off. I was still with Ryan. And
I just want to pay Brian a compliment real quick too, because this is a key thing that I just realized in this talk. I have been in situations like this, from finding Bigfoot to my own journeys, where there is something in the woods, but I've never gone at it with intensity. I maybe gently walk toward it. So I want to say, Brian, your training as a police officer and not having that normal fear, I guess, that most of us do about the unknown, you led the charge, which is amazing, because without you, I don't think we all would have done what you're going to explain next. And all I knew was that you were not going to beat my ass up that mountain. That's all I knew. So you inspired me to do what I did. I wouldn't have done it if I didn't know you and Chris were making progress, So anyway, sorry to jump ahead, but thank you for that. That training, I think, is what got us to where we need to go. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so here I am. Before all of that happened, I'm walking towards this large heat signature that Daniel and Bobo are passing the thermal back and forth and looking at. I can't see anything. It is pitch dark. We had rain, as you mentioned earlier, I think, Daniel. We had rain before that. There was a very low cloud ceiling. There was no ambient light going on here, and we weren't using flashlights. So I'm walking out in the middle of the woods with a flashlight in my hand, mind you, but I wasn't using it to get where I was. And you guys are sort of directing me until I get out of earshot. I'm probably 35 yards in by myself at this point. And I'm nervous because I'm hearing something move. It did not sound huge at the time, but I heard something move, and I knew I was not alone in those woods. And one of the best moments of my life, frankly, was hearing Chris coming up behind me. Because he had enough. He's like, Brian's been in there by himself long enough. I'm going to come up behind him. And he kind of come up behind me, and we kind of were about to reconnect. But before that, I'd heard this noise, and I was tracking this noise moving like from my left to right. And I get up. It's not even I can't even call it a game trail. It was just a little break in the underbrush. And I'm hearing this movement. And I got a little nervous at that point because it was getting closer to me, and it sounded bigger than it did when it was a little farther away. And I'm getting up to this point in the trail, we'll call it, and I'm hearing this movement, and I'm like, okay, I've got to throw on my flashlight. And I threw my flashlight on, and I see this thing move across from left to right, step across the trail in front of me.
Now we're here.
Maybe 25 feet away from me, 25 feet at this point, and I am like, holy shit. I see what looks like a conical head, no shoulder, no neck to speak of, just shoulders in the back, and it's facing away from me, and it's crossing across the trail where I have my flashlight on, shining it in this area. And I've still yet to go through all the audio because I had my audio recorder going at the time. But I think it was something like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. I just saw a Sasquatch walk across the trail 20, 25 feet away from me. Obviously, Chris is coming up at this point. He's kind of understanding that something's going on. I just saw something. So Chris and I come back together, and I'll let you kind of take it from there, Chris, because I'll be honest with you, my adrenaline was pumping at that point so much.
Nice, brother.
It's a little bit of a blur at that point, but we did have some experiences together that I'm sure you can speak to from that point.
Yeah, well, just you were up to my left, probably 20 feet away from me, and this is all on the audio. I start hearing things, and I've already said to Daniel that you need to get up here, man. We're right in it.
Sorry.
Come on, Flipper. I said to Daniel, you need to get up here, man, because we're right in it. And it's like Ryan was explaining, you know, all the hair on your arms is standing up, even on my legs, everything. You're absolutely tingling. And Brian, I start to hear to my right a twig snap, and then a second one, and I'm like on high alert, looking that way, and then I hear the thump, something like somebody jumped out of a tree and hit the ground, and then brushed past a bush that was water laden. So I started talking this up because it's hard to write it down in pitch black on the side of a mountain, and you're like, I just saw it cross the trail. I'm like, how can you? It's over here. And then I clicked. There's more than one. What did we find out? There was definitely 3 because Bobo was still watching his, and we'd all walked past him. Yeah,
we probably walked by multiple ones. That's the crazy.
I mean, that's when you go back through that footage, and you've got very clearly people all around on camera, on the GoPros, lit up by torches, and in the background there's 2 eyes looking out from behind a tree, and you're like, what the hell? Okay, maybe whatever, but the eyes are like, they're this far apart, the same as us, well, okay, like this, and you think that's that's not a raccoon. That I didn't see any raccoons there, but
and that's a point, and I'm going to jump in there, mate, because as you all are all aware, you never actually know what happened until you go back and look at that footage. Now, I gotta say, I've seen the footage about 400 times. So, and I went back through it. I went, hold on a minute. That was a flash of light. So as we're stood, I don't know what bit we're at, but as we were stood together, Brian was getting towards us, and you can hear him breathing really loudly. Chris has explained to us what they've just heard, and that was when myself, Ryan, and Dad just got there. There was, as Ryan's cam moved, there was eye shine going through the back. Now that is just a pivotal moment there that we didn't know that I was there, and we didn't actually look at that footage until, I don't know, month after. So it's that kind of there's stuff that was there without us even knowing it was there. So
look, I've got a still from down next to the trail, and I think it's Brian. I turned to talk to Brian. There's somebody down behind the tree looking out of us right there on the trail, and yeah, it's ridiculous how many eyes were watching us that night.
And so I'm gonna kind of get to the moment, all right, and the moment that I will always remember, and I it's the famous phrase. I'm gonna call it. So we're walking kind of. It was a little bit of a trail now. And we were all saying, look, all these trees are dead. And Ryan was kicking, I think it was just having fun. It was kicking all the rotten roots down. Now, I can't explain what I saw now to everyone out there. Just, I'm going to say I'm colorblind. So I can't say what color, but it was definitely it. I was scanning my torch around. Now, I had a bit of a kind of, there's something around us, obviously, because of what's just happened, what's been around us. And I say the words, eye shine. And at that point, I gotta say, it went from here to here within a matter of milliseconds. So at that point, and you can see in the camera, you've got Ryan falls behind Brian. Chris is right next to me, and Dad's behind me, and we're all looking at this one direction. And I'm like, oh my God, I have just seen something. Now, at that point, and I have to say, we've had to cut that little bit out, but Chris says MF, as we call it. But we're trying to keep this still for children, so MF, and that was said by.
Just use the word duck. Just use duck.
I saw a fair number of ducks at that exact moment. Yes. And I kept pointing it out to everybody. Look, there's a duck, and there is a mother duck because she was brown. Yeah, a brown duck.
But like, it's a genuine moment. You can never fault someone when they're having something that's so powerful they don't even know how to get it out of their body, and so that's when you use those words. By the way,
30 years of searching, and the first thing I say is.
And that's what I love about it. That is what I love about it. So at that point, and Brian, can I say it, or do you want to say it?
Go ahead.
So, and Ryan's cam moves behind him, and Brian then says, "Oh my God, it just moved across the ducking trail." And at that point, Chris said it on our end. And I am shouting on the top of my voice, "Go Ryan, go Ryan, go Ryan, go Ryan." And he runs up the hill. Ryan goes left. Brian goes straight up. And Ryan's like, I'm getting there before you. And at that point,
let me tell you.
I grab Chris's arm. Dad's behind me. And we are off like the place is on fire behind us. So I'll kind of pass it back to you.
Yeah, so this is this is a moment that I could see people within our community being like, well, that's crazy. You don't run it, Bigfoot, right? That's the dumbest thing. But that's why you have to take all your preconceived notions out and get rid of them, because no, this wasn't your normal, perfect looking for Bigfoot scenario, right? This was literally a large group of us not hiding the fact that we were there and overly enthusiastic to have this happen. And it worked great because it was more about timing then, right? And not that I think you could ever be stealthy and sneak up on these things unless they were sleeping. Now, with that said, I am two people. I am a believer and an experiencer, and I am a filmmaker. And in that moment, I bloody love it makes me, thanks for being the most amazing.
Hey, Gemma.
Oh, we love you, Gemma. Thank you for having a son that's brought us all together, and in a very short amount of time has brought us to the very height of the mountain we've all been climbing. So thank you for that. So in this moment, Gemma, that's Daniel's mama, by the way, and good parenting has got him to where he is now, in my humble opinion. Now, with that said, I am of two worlds. And I want to be an experiencer more than I want to be a filmmaker. Anybody that loves this would want that. But I will tell you what happened to me in that moment. We have 200,000 plus cameras on the trail with one of my best friends in the world and the guy he brought. They cannot enter these woods because, as Brian was explaining, this was the most verdant and ridiculous place. You would never hike. Not only would you never hike, you would never do a sprint up this crazy ravine with all this deadfall. You just wouldn't. But in that moment, he says, go. Here's why it was so beautiful for me. I've never been with a group when this happens. And I mean like a group. And thanks to Brian and Chris's bravery, which credit to their lives and the service that they've done, it created a different version of me. And we sprinted, like Daniel said, we sprinted. Now, the only difference is I understood I was the only camera heading off into this nightmare. I mean, it was like a nightmare scenario, too dark, too dangerous, too everything. And I knew I had to film. So I never saw anything. I never saw, and if I did, it happened so fast because I was focused on them. I was focused on the team. So my camera, you'll see it in it, but I didn't. I'm like the one that I would have thought I would have been so selfish in that moment. I really thought that was me, but it wasn't me. In that moment, I was just a team player, making sure that I could capture it so these guys could have this like beautiful thing. It'd get me out of a few moments in hell, right? Like maybe I'm on the fast track to heaven now. But in that moment, when you said go, all I knew, and I joke, but all I knew was I was like, Chris and Brian ain't beating me to the top of that hill. And that was it. But it was like competition, right? It wasn't even they're going to see it. It was just they ain't beat me to the top of the hill because I'll film, but I'm going to get there. And we took off racing. And all I can tell you is I hope all of you in your journey to find Bigfoot, or whatever you're looking for, you share a moment with people where suddenly we were like, what were we? We were like mountain climbing athletes all of a sudden. You know what I mean? Like,
honestly, we were, weren't we?
Yeah. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I was filming and I made sure to be there for the team at the top of that hill. And I'm so happy for all of us. But
at that point, we got to the top.
Yeah.
And I gotta say,
I was there first.
For everyone who has seen what has come out, myself, RPG, and Chris, and my dad, Craig Barnett, have released a production company, and I bet you can know why we named that company SVS, Summit View Studios, because at that point we got to the top. And I was below with Chris, and I got a feeling Chris picked me up, and Chris could have broken my bones because we were hugging each other so much. It was amazing, and we never thought anything like this would happen. And I gotta say, one of the most special moments in that documentary. And everyone keeps saying that this doc's about me, and I love that it is about the journey, but that end bit is about Brian. Because that end bit is gold. You at the end of that documentary, Brian, is fantastic. And the moment I saw that footage, mate, and I showed that to you, me and Dad watched you. And that was one of the most magical moments, watching you watch yourself on there. Because that was fantastic. And Brian and Ryan filming you was also fantastic. And I will never, ever forget that moment where you and Chris hugged. And even Chris cried at that moment because I got on camera as well. And
one of them ducks flew in my eye. That was all.
I then think at that moment when we hugged Brian, that was one of the most best moments of all. And I gotta say to everyone that is watching right now and that will watch, we have been now bonded as a team that we will never ever forget. So you will always see us everywhere. And Brian and Ryan and Chris, am I right in saying that what happened on that top of the hill was so brilliant? And I think, Brian, your reaction really made that documentary come to an end, which was fantastic. You are definitely a superstar, mate.
Well, the only thing that I did was have a natural reaction to what we had all experienced, because when you work with a team like we have here, and it's not just a team, it's a family. I have become so close with you guys. I consider you all my family. Family's not just what you're born into. It's what you decide and choose to be your family. And I have chosen that hands down from you guys. So it was just a natural experience. And there was a lot of adrenaline. I think somebody said it earlier in the chat. There was a lot of adrenaline pumping.
Oh my God,
and it will make you do things you wouldn't normally do. That's what I'm blaming it on, because I cried like a baby at the top of that hill.
And I love who's just said it.
And because of that, I will say this, one of the first things Ryan asked me was, how are you going to respond when people say they don't believe you? Or how do you respond to people that may doubt what you saw? My reaction was, I don't give a shit what other people think. We know what we just experienced together. And the second part of that was immediately guilt for me. And I've shared this with you privately. It's probably on film in the documentary. I had doubted some of the things that we experienced that night collectively. I saw self-illuminating eyes during that experience before we charged up that hill. And I can tell you now, that's something that I had doubted so many people in the past. And I never should have done that. And it took me experiencing that for myself. So that was a very emotional thing, because I went back to probably 1,000 people at this point I've interviewed. And so many people had those experiences and shared them with me. And I felt like such an ass because I didn't believe them. And at that moment, I was having this moment of, I've just had the greatest thing ever happen to me that I never thought would ever happen in a million years, but I'm conflicted. I have this dichotomy of doubting the people that have come before me And I think that's something that was very powerful that I took away from it. And it really changed that moment, changed me as a person in so many ways, not just a person, but as a podcaster and an investigator and a researcher that looks into this subject very seriously. It changed the way that I approach the subject and the people that have those experiences moving forward. I'm not falling for everything everybody says, hook, line, and sinker. I'm still very skeptical, but it really opened me up to all of the experiences that people have, and they may not be very similar to what we had, but it's still their experience. So it was literally hands down a life-changing experience, and I would not have wanted to experience it with anybody other than the people that were there to experience it with me.
And that line was said on camera, and that is magical because that is one of the last lines that is said in the doc. So Brian, well done. And I gotta say, every time I go on the phone to Chris, I gotta say it's a lot. I think today has been the 34th time I've spoken to Chris.
That's an understatement.
And Chris says to me every day, do you keep thinking about what happened on that hill? And mate, we say it every day, don't we? It is something that we will never forget.
Yeah, we as you know, I go out and I'm in a mountainous area, not mountains like northwest specific.
Get it right.
Yeah. They're little baby mountains in Wales, but covered in forest and that. And I have a different perspective when I'm walking through the forest now, like it's given up one of its secrets to me, which is very difficult to really explain what that means. But it is genuinely, you kind of have a little warm feeling inside. And I don't mean I wet myself. I mean, in your inside, you smile knowingly at the forest because it's given up one of its secrets to you. It's very difficult to put into words, but that's the truth. It's changed. It's such a big passion of mine to hike in the forest and on the mountainsides, and now it's different. And each time I go out, it's a little bit different because of that situation.
And don't think Brian was the only one who was emotional at the top of that mountain. This young man over here was also very emotional, just a little better at hiding it than the rest.
Whoa. I'm not talking
about Chris. He was equally as Chris is very humble, and he's been at this arguably longer than all of us. And for him to have that moment at the top, and Chris, I would say, is a man's man. He's not going to emote as much as the rest of us, but he was very much 190% alive, just like we all were in that. Once again, it was electric. It was tangible.
Yeah.
And Chris, I've got to say, mate, I've known you, both you and Brian a very, very long time. And I say this once a week, that we had no idea when you first met me and when I first met you and we had that wonderful conversation, we didn't realize what was going to happen. But I gotta say that I remember your interview, and I keep watching it over and over again. That your interview is also very, very, very powerful as well, mate, because you have gone from doing single research and just enjoying yourself to now becoming part of this team that we've built together. And I think that is also very, very powerful. Whether you're with us all the time or not, because I know that you're really, really busy, but it was amazing to kind of have you on that hill as well as the rest of us.
I
gotta say,
one caveat? Sorry.
Okay, go on. No, go on.
There are a lot of wonderful documentaries about Bigfoot, wonderful shows, podcasts, and everything. But ask yourself, of all the ones you've bared witness to, how many of them take you to the moment when they actually have it? Not telling the story years ago, but being with them in the moment. They have this life redefining moment for themselves. And the beauty of this doc is you're going to get it in this doc. You're going to be there at the summit with us. And that, I don't know, that's wonderful.
And
I mean, that's the greatest. Yeah.
At that point, Ryan, I'm also going to revert to a moment where you got very, very emotional as well. Where we come down from the hill, and you repeated the words. You've tried very, very hard to find your
Oh,
group.
yeah. Yep.
And to find people as your tribe and as your team.
Mhm.
And at that point, I said these words, and I'm about to say them again.
Okay, hold on.
And he disappeared. Oh, he's got a Kleenex.
Okay, go ahead.
No, hold on. No, say and Chris, Brian, Ronnie, everyone that is on this team, none of that would have happened without you.
Oh,
And not this group wouldn't be together without then you being part of this team. And say even going back to the UK, it has been amazing to then have you on this team, and along with then everyone else, Nan, and it's been great to then have you along as well as everyone else. But when you keep saying it's us, you are the one that's actually brought this team to the solid. No, but I'm not done. It's brought the team together, which is what then you've done. And yes, I know what you're about to say. I've then done that as well, but you've then done as much as I have, because then none of this, including the conferences, would then happen without you. So I want to thank you on behalf of Chris, Brian, and the entire team.
Yeah, thank you very much.
you.
Yeah.
I'm just getting my tissues out, but I just can't see how to open the box.
You got to aim for the little, what was it, the exhaust vent or whatever in it? No, that was, yeah, guys, that was, I don't know, it's just a dream. I go back to what I said. I've traveled, I've gone around the world twice, man, but I have the same problem every time as I sit in this spot with this beautiful vista, and all I want to do is share it with people. It's the only thing negative about the moment, is that it's just for me. And this is one of the very few moments in my life where I shared it with people. That's why it's so profound to me. I know what happened. I know what's going on. Like I said, it was heaven on earth, Christmas morning, your greatest birthday ever, falling in love, whatever you want to equate it to. We were there and we stood on that summit and we felt it as a family. And yeah, that's that kind of bonding moment that you hope everybody has with the people they love. So yeah.
So yeah, it's magical. And I'll go back to a point in a minute, but I want to address this question. So guys, we have held this in since last August and even last April. So and Brian had the pleasure, I gotta say, it was a fantastic podcast to release that for the first time. But I think it was Wednesday that we got the go to say it, and we were so excited that we wanted to get as a team together and actually say this. And Chris is like, I can't wait to actually say and get it off that this has happened. So the actual documentary release date is going to be later this year. We as a team, Ryan's an executive producer. We literally don't know. So, and that is from the honest opinion. We don't know exactly when that release date is going to be. But I'm going to say right now, as soon as we know, you guys will know as soon as we know. So, we will let you know ASAP once we have a release date on this doc. So, there is one point that hasn't been brought up, and I believe we're talking to mainly the Bigfoot community here. But every other community out in the world, autism, family, everything else, that's what this doc is. And and at this point, I'm going to bring this poster back up because we haven't actually said a lot about this poster, and that has been on purpose. But this quote here says he was looking for the big man and he found a bigger family. Now, I don't even know if you guys have read that line properly, or just looked at the cool badass Bigfoot that it is. But it is a oh, actually, yeah, I will. That is a point that I forgot, but it will be at Cannes Film Festival this year, which will be fantastic. But the actual story is that we have come together as a group and what you would call family, and I think that's what is brought together. And that is the true meaning of that doc. Yes, there are some pretty awesome moments about Bigfoot, but it's also about the journey of autism as well, which means anyone in the autism community as well. That's a very, very important thing about this doc, is that it's the journey of this group growing, and I think that is fantastic, and a meaning that we're all here to share, and I just think it is one badass doc. I think.
Agreed. It's
Yeah.
fucking amazing.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm now going to add something else to this podcast. Now, unfortunately, our other guest, as you might know, was Ronnie LeBlanc, that is coming on. He may still come on. We don't know. He may pop up. Yeah, Chris, go on, mate.
Well, unless somebody can go pick up my wife in 6 minutes, I'm not going to be around for Ronnie to come on. Sorry.
No worries, mate. No worries. But before you go, I will say to everyone that in May, at the end of this month, we are going to have a fantastic conference here in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
We have built this conference together, all right, and there have been some many ups and downs in it, okay, and we have something very, very special for you lined up. All you VIPs will be there. We have some very, very special things lined up for you. I'm not going to name what, okay, but this is a once in a lifetime opportunity at this conference. We have Ronnie LeBlanc and someone named RPG. Guys, I don't really know who that is. If you could remind me who that is. And then we have some awesome other guests that will be with us, and we can't wait to actually have everyone back in the UK. But there is one thing that I forgot to say. I have had a chat with a organizer of mine, and we are actually going to have on the Friday night someone come on virtual. We're going to have Brian King Sharp come on virtually, and we are going to listen with him, and he can see us. He won't actually be at the conference, but we will have you there as part of the team on virtually. Now, I wanted to tell you that live, but because I just wanted to, but you will be there on that Friday night with us when we do this magical thing together.
I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Yeah, and if there are any angel investors that want a last minute plane ticket so he can come on out, that would be unbelievable too.
Hey,
so everyone out there, I have really enjoyed this podcast, and I can't speak on behalf, and hold on, I 100% agree with this comment. 100% agree with this comment, and you will always be part of the group, Brian. All right. Now, we have really enjoyed this podcast. It's been a very, very long time since this team got back together. And I'm so glad that we did it in style, and we came back a year later to explain the story. We will see you at the end of May on May 31st. And if you're a VIP, May 30th and 1st of June. And RPG will be back here. I can't believe he's come back to the UK. He must hate the UK.
I have an addiction problem with the UK, and I'm working on it.
And we can't wait to really share this magical moment for us. So I'm going to end this podcast my way. And the last Chris, is there anything you want to say?
Thank you, Cryptid Crystal, Leanne 72, Chris, Tiffany.
Everyone.
The older people will remember Tiffany with I Think We're Alone Now. Love that. And Craig, Romy. Hey, Romy. And somebody called Gemma.
I don't really know who that is.
She's writing in very small letters.
She will punch you for that. So to everyone out there, thank you so much. That is coming from myself, RPG, Brian Kingsharp, and Chris Alsford. And we will all see you very, very soon on a podcast. So my last words for you are: keep searching, stay mythical, stay safe, and we love you from Sasquatch Odyssey, Mythical Legends Podcast, Summit View Studios. Thank you so much. We love you, and Bigfoot will always love you. And we're out.
Thank you for listening to the Mythical Legends Podcast. For more information, check out our Facebook group. The truth is out there.